Welcome to the Yoga in Black podcast. My name is Tyranny, and I am the creator and host of this show. Really, the purpose of this is to shine a bright light on Black yoga instructors to help create safe places for our community to practice because we deserve it just as much as anybody else. Each episode, I bring you a new yoga instructor or wellness professional to share their story so you get a chance to know who they are, find where they are offering their classes, and experience all of the magic that they bring within this practice, whether it's yoga, whether it's something else. As long as it's holistic, we're all about it. So keep watching, keep listening, and I hope you enjoy the show. Thanks for being here. You know, sisterhood is something truly amazing. And it comes in so many different ways because it doesn't necessarily have to be somebody that you have blood ties to. Sisterhood can be just a deep relationship that you have fostered with another. And I am beyond excited to introduce you all to someone that I have considered so much of a sister for at least, almost 2 decades of my life now. And to have us both be on this path with yoga in our lives as much as it is really, really, truly deepening our connection. So without further ado, I am so honored to kick off this 3rd season of the Yoga in Black podcast with a dear friend of mine, Dr. Kim Everett. Keep watching, keep listening so that you can learn her amazing story. Hello everyone, this is Tyranny and I am so excited to have you all back for the beginning of a new season of the Yoga in Black podcast. And this episode is particularly special to my heart because the woman that you see in front of you is someone that has been just a beacon of light in my life for decades now. I can't believe it's really been that long. We've known each other for over 18 years now. Yeah, that's right. So everyone, without further ado, I would like you all to meet Dr. Kim Everett. Kim, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then I'll go into our relationship a little bit later.
Okay. Hey, Yoga in Black community. Again, Kim Everett. Pronouns are she, her, and hers. And I don't even know where to start. Right now, I am in a period of redefinition and recalibration. So introducing myself is even something new for me. But I am in the end stages of my yoga teacher training. I technically finished it, but I still have some paperwork out there. But I am trained in the tradition of Kundalini Yoga as taught by Yogi Bhajan. And I finished my class in September of 2022. And it has been a whirlwind. I have not yet taught yet, and I don't know if I will teach. But in that time I also became a Reiki practitioner, and I am attuned to level 3 as well as attuned to be able to teach Reiki. So that has been a beautiful part of my experience as well. But all of that is relatively new, and this really is the yoga and wellness space is a second act for me. My first career came in working with college students, where I originally met Tyranny, or the way we initially became in contact. I was working with college students and student affairs, supporting them through all of the things outside of the classroom. So I would say I want to make sure that my students are treated well while they're in school, that they have a good experience, and that they are able to live their best lives afterwards. And that is Alpha, my fur baby that you may hear in the background here. I have 2 daughters who are an important part of my life. They are 18 and 25, and the Everett girls are all in transition right now. And so I'm excited to talk with Tyranny about all of these transitions and all of the things and the tools that I have to move me along in these transitions.
Alpha is taking the or stealing the show right now.
There's somebody at the door, but I trust that between my mom and Jaya, they'll figure it out.
But yeah, so going back to what you had said about your first foray into like the professional world of everything was, in higher education, and you were paramount to my survival through college. So to give a little background on our relationship, if I remember correctly, we actually met before you actually got to Iowa State. You're an alumnus of Iowa State as well, but we are also sorority sisters. So I met you while I was becoming a member, and it was as soon as I heard her voice, because all I ever had was phone conversations with Kim, and as soon as I heard her voice, I'm like, I just love her. I just love her. There was something so warm and just caring about the energy that you even exuded through the phone. And I'm just like, I know that no matter what, as long as I have Kim in my life, I'm good. I'm good. And I'm gonna get emotional through this whole episode. I know it, because I'm already getting all choked up. Because between the two of us, we're gonna cry. But Kim was working in these SSSP, Student Support Services Program. And that program, I wouldn't have survived college without it. I didn't have a computer. I didn't have a lot of resources. I was first generation and not knowing what the hell I was doing. And if it wasn't for being in that office every day, knocking on Kim's door every other day, or whenever she was there, just to peek my head in and be like, hey, how you doing? And then the relationship grew from there, where it got to the point where I was picking up your kids from school, babysitting until you were done with work, and at your house every damn day, it seemed. I think I became your third child at one point, and
I referred to you as my oldest child. Yes.
Yeah. And it was just, those were the most positive moments for me through college, was any time spent with you. So first and foremost, thank you for everything that you have done for, the communities that you serve and everywhere that you even set foot. You are a light in this world, and I can't thank you enough for the support that you've provided me through college and beyond, because you're the epitome of a sister. So thank you.
And I need you to know, I'm gonna give you a moment, and I'm gonna have my opportunity to make us cry. But I need you to know that everything that you got from that relationship, even in that time, I got as well. I don't know what life would have been like for my family without the circle of support that we had. I talk to my kids constantly about our village, and our village is wide and deep and global at this point. They are everywhere. Each one of you had a role in all of that process. So in the next month or so, when the second one graduates, know that you are a part of that process as well.
I'm so proud of those kids. Oh my goodness.
And then you, I'm gonna do it because I know you don't really want me to. I'm gonna stop and let you know how much of a beacon and inspiration you have been to me in this part of the process. Particularly, I remember asking you, like, how much should yoga teacher training cost? And I was astonished by the number you said to me. And then I remember asking you about what it would be like, and you giving me the guidance through it all, even in the smallest of ways. And then you showed up at my graduation. You have become the big sister now in this part of the process. And I am grateful to be able to have you to follow.
Oh man, y'all, this is typical Tyranny Kim stuff. We gonna get on the phone with each other or get in person and cry about how much we love each other.
It's kind of ridiculous, and I love it at the same time.
We are the known criers of our chapter.
I am imagining our other halves, Stella and Keisha, laughing at us right now. So whenever they see this,
as soon as they see this, they're gonna be like, typical. Like, yeah, we're gonna get on here and cry. I don't even have anything to wipe up my face. I got my headband. Oh my goodness.
But this is one of
Oh,
the reasons why I tell people, I'm like, the tears are not sad. I cry a lot.
no.
I cry all the time, constantly. And it's not always a bad thing. It is a recognition of the feelings that I'm having. And oftentimes those feelings are really good. And then like the purging of
Yes.
get it out. Get it out.
1000%. And I also think that some of that Cancer energy in us, because I'm a Cancer rising.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
technically a Leo. Remember, I'm the 24th. So
Yeah.
I
You
am
close though.
I know, I'm like, I'm pretty
Like
close.
you
So
close. Yeah.
mhm.
But I think there's some Cancer in there somewhere.
I think so. Let me look. I can't remember.
Either
I'm learning
way.
so much about myself that
Yeah.
I just don't, it gets overwhelming at points.
Oh
I'm so
yeah.
glad we don't have an actual agenda because I've thrown us off it already. So I'm gonna
Oh,
be
I don't
quiet
even
and let
care, but
you take us
that's
back
one
whenever
thing
you
that
want
I've
to.
loved about this platform being open forum is just let's just talk about whatever, cuz I don't think I was able to really be comfortable being this expressive with my emotions until after I started practicing yoga. Like I used to bottle up so much and do all of my crying in private, or at least try not to cry even in private, and then would just have this eruption of emotion whenever, the kettle got too hot.
Yeah,
Um and I'm I'm proud to say that that's something I don't practice anymore. When I do feel the need to cry, I let it happen. And
yeah,
it's helped me move forward on a lot of shit. How
yeah.
about you?
Similar. And it's really interesting because we kicked off this conversation with you talking about me being a beacon of light and helpful to you. Or I used to be very selective in who I would let see me cry. I would never have done
Yeah.
this. I've been this exposed to you before. And I think about that with my children as well. Like, I have always felt the need to not let them see that because they need a pillar of strength. They need to believe that it's going to be okay, you know? So I often hid some of those, the sad moments anyway, or the tough
Mhm.
time cries. The happy cries, yeah, they see that all the time. But the other ones, I would hide from y'all because I'm like, they have expectations of me to have it
Mhm.
together. And so I need to keep it together in order for me to be able to meet their expectations. But I came to learn like I also need for their expectations of me to be realistic. And I need I need their expectations of themselves to be realistic. I had to start to let them see the cracks, so to speak, so that they would be okay with the cracks that they have. I don't
Yeah.
want them to feel like, or all of y'all, any of y'all, to feel like I've never seen Kim or mom in a moment of vulnerability. So that means it's not okay. So I let them see it. I let them see when I'm worried. I let them see when I'm scared. I let them see when I am frustrated, just to really normalize the full range of emotions and let them know it's okay to feel all those things and still be strong.
Actually, I think it makes you stronger.
Yeah.
I really do. I think being able to embrace and accept your full self, even in really vulnerable moments, is a true practice in strength, or at least a show of strength. And I find those that kind of hold that stuff back, or, at least aren't as public with it, I won't say they're not strong, but I will say that there's definitely, um, gosh, how am I trying to word this? Because I don't want to say weakness either, but there's capabilities, or there's at least potential for them to be so much more than what they're allowing them to be in the
Yeah.
moment,
Yeah.
which could translate to weakness if we want to call it that. But I've always found so much strength in those that are able to know and understand their emotions and allow themselves to be vulnerable enough in the moment to let that stuff be shown and seen so that people can see the full range of who they are.
Yeah. Yeah. And when we hold it in, the body tells the story, as we have learned in our yoga training, that all of the energy, emotion, trauma that you don't release stays there somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
and it manifests itself in some way eventually.
Yes. That reminds me of I need to read the book, The Body Keeps the Score. I need to read
Hmm.
that. I know it's technically a textbook, but I don't care. I don't it's so bad.
That's the other thing I knew we were going to talk about, all these random nerdy things.
Oh, of
Between
course.
our random nerdiness and our extreme unapologetic emotionality, I love these things, these connections that you and I have.
Yes, yes, yes. All right, so I do have a formal question that I want to
Okay.
ask because I want everyone to know your story and foray into yoga. What sparked it? And tell me all about the journey to and through it.
Mm-hmm. Markia, the oldest of my two kids, for those of y'all who don't know them, used to invite me to yoga classes all the time. And I would go every now and then, like at the gym that I was going to, but I did not enjoy it. I thought it was boring and it did not hold my attention. And it was not I was thinking of it as a form of exercise at that point, and it just wasn't one that was of interest to me. But I do have a friend, dear friend. Her name is Kanika. And I remember she posted on Facebook about a time where she was experiencing something particularly stressful through her work. And she remembered a breathing technique that she had learned in yoga and applied it in that moment. And she had been inviting me to this yoga class for months before then. And I was just like, yeah, I'm good. And so I finally went. Once I was like, okay, this is not just stretching and a thing to do to relax. She's telling me how she has applied this in her real life. So I went to that class with her, and that was called Soul Healing Yoga. And the teacher's name is Stacy Patrice. And Stacy took us through a process every Sunday afternoon that I looked forward to like you could not believe. Our time together, the class was 2 hours long. When I say 2 hour yoga class, people look at me like I'm crazy, but I'm like, no, that included some discussion at the beginning of the class where we all just kind of chewed on something and talked through it. And then we had our I'm messing up the order now. But then there was meditation in there where we all meditated together. And then there was the practice or the vinyasas that we moved through. And it was amazing. There was always a carefully curated playlist of music that we all loved. And it was more than physical exercise. It was absolutely a process of pulling it all together, taking 2 hours out of the day for myself, um, and just being there and being in community with these people in this space. And it was absolutely amazing. In this time, I also started seeing a new therapist who is very holistic in her practices. She also does hypnotherapy, she does Reiki, she does all of these things in addition to her psychotherapy. And I would see Lasanda on Sundays at 11:30, I think it was, and then yoga was on Sundays at 2. So I would leave one and go to the other, and every Sunday I swear I feel like I was reborn between these two folks. During that time, I also started getting regular Reiki treatments for myself. And Tiffany Murphy was my Reiki practitioner, and she would help clear all the things and get me in all the ways. And so between Stacy, Lasanda, and Tiffany, I was coming to understand a whole new way of understanding myself and moving through the world between the holistic therapy, regular yoga, and the regular Reiki treatments. And so that's how it all kind of began. And then I am who I am. I'm a teacher, I'm an educator at heart. And so I'm always like, I want to be able to share this thing with other people and teach other people how to do it because it has literally saved my life. I was at a point where I didn't know what was next, how to go, where to turn. And these things all combined gave me a perspective that was useful and helpful. And in that time, I was like, Stacy, I really want to learn how to teach like you teach. I want to create this sort of an environment where there is a community, there is conversation, there's application. It's not just 30 minutes of sweating on the mat. And so I was like, please do a teacher training. I had no idea what any of this consisted of at this point. And eventually she was like, that's not really in alignment with where my life is taking me. And I said that. And so I kind of stumbled upon the teacher training that I came across. But I knew I wanted something more than learning the poses and putting the poses in place. I wanted the entire experience that I feel I got on Sundays with Stacy, and Kundalini Yoga was absolutely the answer. And I didn't know it at the time, but I got to exactly where I was supposed to be.
It's crazy how it does just stumble upon you. Like when I had a similar experience when I had set in my mind, in my educator mind, like I've experienced this thing that has changed everything about my life. I want to share it with everybody and show them how.
Yeah.
I didn't even really I'll fully admit I didn't do a ton of research on programs. I just happened to find one within the Quad Cities at the time and took a class at their studio and fell in love and was like, this is it. And applied immediately and got in and thought it was, I think I celebrated that more than getting into college. Even though that was definitely a big deal.
Yeah, this is a more informed decision. For a lot of us, college is kind of like the thing you do next.
It's
So,
expected, yeah.
right. But this was something that you saw a need for and you sought out. So, yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense. I didn't do any research, honestly, at all. I had never done Kundalini Yoga before teacher training started. So when you
Wow.
say did no research, one of my former students, Lakeisha Harris, was the very first person who did Reiki with me. And that was probably about 7 years ago, the very first Reiki experience. And she also told me about Kundalini Yoga. And she was like, this is not the yoga you typically think of. This is more of a spiritual practice. And I
Yeah.
never thought about it more from there. At some point, once soul healing yoga on Sunday afternoons ceased because of the pandemic, I remember Keisha saying this to me. And so I got on the mailing list for Kundalini Yoga in the Loop, which is the place that I ended up taking my training from. I signed up for an early morning class, slept through it, didn't actually ever even go to it, but that put me on their
Dang.
mailing list. That put me on the mailing list. And then there came a time where I was like, I need to do something different. I think I'm ready for this yoga training. Stacy had let me know that she wasn't going to be offering one. And then this random email shows up in my inbox that says that Kundalini Yoga in the Loop is about to start a teacher training class, and I signed up immediately. Immediately, had never experienced the practice at all, and there were four of us in the class, and they were all kind of like, You've never done this before?" And my teacher was like, "You were called to it. Clearly, you were called to it, or maybe in a past life you've done this before or something." And I believe that fully. I haven't even tried to figure out the logic behind why I ended up in that space, but I was where I was supposed to be.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's how it works. And it's that your story is not uncommon. It happens for a lot of us that, go this route of wanting to dive in more and learn more, whether you're wanting to teach it or not. It's like most of us are like, well, this opportunity just landed in my lap. Like that's destiny and fate telling you this is exactly where you're supposed to be.
Yep.
That's it. That is a beautiful, beautiful thing. So how was the training? What was that experience like for you?
Yeah, it was, although the studio is here in Chicago where I am, it was all remote, all over Zoom. So we started in September. There were five of us in the class all together. There was one woman who lives here in the city, two women who were in the suburbs, and then our final classmate is in upstate New York. And so
Oh wow.
we all came together, people that I would not likely have ever connected with besides that. So we had class 2 weekends a month for in the beginning. Pretty much all day over Zoom. And so there was some lecture there, some physical stuff there. We did a 90-minute practice during each class. My instructor has been, it seems like a OG in the Kundalini Yoga game. And so she has been doing this for quite some time and is a bit of a pillar in that community. And so it was good to be able to learn from her in this process. I did not have high hopes, honestly, for a remote process because I was like, somebody needs to tell me whether I'm doing this right or not. But somehow she was able to see us well enough to be able to give the corrections that we need and the adjustments that we need. Since we had such a small group along the course, one of our classmates pulled out of the class. But since we had a small group, we really were able to customize the process. And so she let us work around our schedules, which sometimes was good and sometimes bad because even though there are so few of us, coordinating was challenging.
Yeah.
And in it, I part of it, of course, is to have your own personal daily practice. So my sadhana was a challenge for me, and it continues to be a challenge for me. But I keep at it, and I'm so glad I did because that year, while I was in that training, I had just started a new job that was out of my comfort zone, and it was really, really difficult for me. It was a very steep learning curve, and as much as I was not always the best student and begrudging the things that I had to do for class, I'm glad I did because without it, I would have, it was a very difficult emotional time for me. But I know that having all of these practices once again was able to keep me grounded.
Oh yeah. It's great to have this stuff in your tool belt for moments like that because that's exactly what I feel like the practice is for, is to bring balance back in when life is just always going to throw things at you that are going to, knock the scale off balance every now and again. Yoga's
Yeah.
there to snap it right back.
Yeah. And I hope to eventually, what I'm working on now is to try to be as proactive as possible to keep it from going as haywire when these things come along. It has been a excellent tool for me to get back on track when I get off track. Now, my hope is to keep me on track.
So how is that job going now?
Oh, that job we left in December. That
Fair.
job we left in December. I gave it a good year to try to turn it around, but there comes a point where it's like this is not it. This is not working. And at that point, I kind of took a leap. And so now my yoga practice and all my energy work, I just think about this as energy work between the Reiki and the yoga. That's the
Oh
umbrella that
yeah.
I put around it. That is what is sustaining me. And that both mentally and emotionally and financially, because I have now moved into the full time self employment. My primary work now is as a DEI strategist and consultant. And so I am in partnership with one of my best friends. And between the two of us, we are working to help colleges and universities, companies, and nonprofits really think about the ways that they want to emphasize inclusion and equity and build policies and practices and cultures that support inclusion and equity in meaningful ways. And so that is my job now. Since January of 2023, I have been full time self employed. So primarily DEI strategy and consulting, but also been practicing Reiki with some close friends and family. And that business is flourishing as well. So I am in the midst of riding a wave of uncertainty, not knowing what's coming next. But because I believe what I say when I talk about the grounding practice that is yoga and Reiki to help me ride through this wave of uncertainty, I am going to be ready to tell you the story on the other side of all the successes that are to come.
That is exciting. I didn't know that about the DEI consulting thing. So that just seems right up your alley. It just
Yeah.
seems so natural for you because you've always been a champion for inclusion and bringing in more diversity in any place that you set foot in. And the way that you are able to connect and engage with people, because I said when I first, heard your voice, even I'm like, oh no, she's just so warm and inviting, and it comes from a place of love and just wanting everyone to just get
Be
along. Damn
okay. I
it.
just want everybody to be. I want everybody to have what they need, and I want everybody to
Yes.
be okay. And when I talk to my corporate clients, like if I'm in a training or something, I will often say I followed my students into the workplace. So the students that I was working with on campus, wanting to make sure that they had the tools and resources and respect and opportunity that they required. I'm doing that for
Hmm.
them, those same people now in the workplace.
Yes. Ah, this is so beautiful. I am so happy for you. Oh my God.
Yeah,
Ah,
and it feels right. It feels right 98% of the time. And those 2% when I'm like, oh shit, what did I do? I have my practice to remind me to just be faithful to what I set out, continue to check in and realize that you are moving in your purpose. And as long as you continue to move as you are led, then you will get to where you're supposed to be. And
oh
so
yeah.
that is where my energy work becomes super pivotal in those 2% of the time when I don't feel so certain.
And I feel like that 2% is just a default. Like it's always going to be there because you don't know what you're doing. Well, not that what you're doing,
No,
but
you really
how things
don't.
are
And
going to
I
go.
think we should all get
Yeah.
okay with saying that. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah. And like a lot of us are either winging it or learning as we go. And again, there's always going to be a variable that throws itself in there that you weren't prepared for. So that 2% is always going to be there. You're never going to be 100% certain about anything that you put your energy into. You always need to have at least that base level 2% where it's like, oh shit, what the hell is this?
Teach
Like,
on
freak
your
out a
toes.
little bit, but bring it right
Teach
back.
on your toes. Right. Right. And like we talked about earlier, I have gotten more okay with that. I have gotten more okay with not knowing exactly what is happening all the time.
Yes.
And yeah, that has been the biggest lesson for me. Like I don't know what's going to happen, but because I believe, because I have faith, I know it's going to be okay as long as I am moving in the direction that I am led.
Hmm. Amen to that. So tell me more about Reiki. What are you still in another training or have you just finished one? Because I can't remember what you said.
I know
You're
I
level
talk so
3,
much.
right?
I finished the highest level of training in
Okay.
February of this year. However, I still say I'm in training because I haven't done a whole lot of practice. And so I think about this because I'm an academic in terms of that I remember. It's sort of like having gone straight through high school through a PhD without working. So you have all of this book learning and this book understanding. And I know full well that the flow of energy is there. I just haven't practiced a whole lot. So I am still in training in my mind and kind of seeking mentorship from some of the more experienced practitioners in the area. And I got a couple folks who are taking me under their wing so that I can really fully understand the power of this energy that comes through. Um, but yeah, Reiki is pretty cool. Reiki is pretty cool. I have been doing it on immediate family and friends since my very first attunement in 2021. But I have not offered it beyond that until just a few weeks ago when I sent, well, not a few weeks ago, a few months ago now, sent a message out to a few of my friends like, all right, I'm ready to do this for real. Who wants a test session? And so I invited a few folks in, and I think there were five of my friends who took me up on it, and they told me that they had really good experiences in the process. They felt the energy and they appreciated the insights that I was able to provide because I intuit a little bit as well. And I get messages for them and I ask them like, do you want to hear these things that are coming my way? And some folks have been really surprised by the things that I have shared that they had never shared with me before, the things that I knew. And so I was like, all right, there really is something to this energy work. I know I feel it when I'm doing it, but I needed that affirmation from my friends and my family around the insights that they got from the process as well. So I still have a lot to learn about being more intentional and deepening my practice. But again, that just comes with more practice.
Absolutely. Oh yeah. The more that I hear you and others speak on Reiki, the more I'm like, just do it, Tyranny. Because
Have you
everything
had
you
a
just said
Reiki treatment
resonates.
yet? You just do it as in just learn or just get us have a session?
Learn. I've had sessions, but I've always felt that there's, because I even spoke on this on my social media yesterday in my classes. There's a lot of energy work that does happen in my classes, and I may unintentionally be practicing Reiki
You
on
are.
them, and I'm not aware of it. But there have often been times where people will come back to me and say that the experience they had, brought something up, or they cleared something or whatever, and I'm just like, yes, well, it was my intention, but I don't know if I don't. I guess I didn't have the words for it at the time. So now that I'm hearing more of y'all's stories, I'm like,
You
oh.
are. You're doing it now. And when I describe Reiki to clients, I'm like it's in the air. Everyone has
Mm-hmm.
access to the energy.
Mm-hmm.
You A lot of times they'll talk about how mothers, particularly if a child is
Oh yeah.
injured and they come to them, they immediately rub it and kiss it.
Yeah.
That that's Reiki. It is all about the intention and the healing purposes that are happening. So your intention to provide energetic healing to the people who cross your path is essentially you tapping into it naturally. What happens in the training is you get to learn to be more intentional about it. And the attunement is what happens that makes all the difference. I talk about it like the client is a lamp and you are the cord to that lamp. The attunement plugs you into the wall. So you have a direct
Okay.
line into that electricity that comes through. You can run a lamp off of a potato, but it won't give you a whole lot of power because the energy exists everywhere. But when you plug into it through the attunement, it flows out at that point.
I like
Does that make
that.
sense?
Oh yeah, I like that a lot. Thank you for that. Nerding out on yoga with Kim. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You had made mention earlier that you may or may not teach yoga. I guess, what's your current thought process around deciding whether you will or won't?
It's a few things. I want there to be a call for it, honestly. Like if there is a reason to do it, then I'll do it. So I think about right now, my teacher is the only teacher at the studio that she has. And so if she ever needs me to substitute or something like that, I would be happy to jump in. I am, I've built up a website and I have on my website private yoga classes or small group yoga classes. So if someone wants it, I'll do it, but I don't necessarily feel called right now to find a job in the studio to offer it on a regular basis, or even to plan events to offer it on a regular basis. It's really going to have to be a call to it, as opposed
Yeah.
to me trying to serve my ego and putting it out there and hoping people will show up. So that's one part of it. And I also still I need to live in it a little bit more, I feel like, as I am sharing it with others. So I hope to be able to find some folks to kind of live in it with me. So to be in community in the practice, but not necessarily me being in charge of the practice. I'm looking for my people for right now. But there was something else I was going to say about whether or not I lean into it. But those are kind of the big ones. It's sort of if there is a need for me to be doing it, if the world calls for Kim to move into offering these classes, then I will not hesitate. Which seems weird with as much time and money as I spent earning this certification, to not know if I will use it in this traditional way.
That part, man. When I think about the fact that I just dropped $3,000 to $4,000 on my 300 hour, and then shortly after stopped teaching, and I'm like, I did that. Yep.
But I say worth it, every penny, even more than
Every
all of the
single
student loans
one.
that I have for all of these 3 degrees, because this has given me tools for life. And I knew when
Exactly.
I was even in training that I may not teach, but that this may be for me to deepen my understanding and for me to deepen my own spiritual walk. And then to be able to offer it in pieces and parts and all of the underlying aspects of it in terms of yogic philosophies and the ways that yoga works on the brain and the body and the
Mm-hmm.
idea of synchronizing the breath. All of those things will apply in everything else that I do as well. And so when I am working with my corporate clients, you are getting diversity, equity, and inclusion, but you're getting it from someone with a yogic standpoint. So you're going to hear about synchronizing the breath. You're going to hear about intention. You're going to hear about purpose and the such. So it really has become a new lens by which I live my whole life. And I want to share it with others if others want it.
Absolutely. I love that. Like, there has to be a lot of intention behind teaching, because that's something I often say in any time that I have been in the position to either mentor or educate other people that are going to be instructing. It's like, please know your why. Understand why it is that you're doing this, and make sure that it is something that you agree with, because this practice, though, yes, it is fun, it's exciting, it's, you know, kind of trendy right now or whatever, depending on, what form it is that you're practicing and teaching. Understand why it is that you're here doing this, because that energy can be felt everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's an ego serving space, then that may be what you attract as well, and that can be draining and take the fun out of it, because it's no longer something that's healing from within. It's serving something a little bit more exterior.
Yeah.
And that's why I haven't taken this time away from teaching. Has been honestly good for me, even though I wasn't thrilled about it. But the experiences I was having at studios prior to this break, or the break before, and then coming back, and then now taking this one, I'm like, yeah, I didn't have any business being in a studio again. But again, this was part of my livelihood. So that's where I needed to reassess what my why was,
Yeah,
because it's, if I'm tying it to my ability to make a dollar, then I'm not able to provide the type of practice that I want to provide to people.
exactly. And then in addition to my why, I'm still figuring out my how. Because
Yeah.
again, I am trained in Kundalini Yoga, which is, I won't, strict is not the word I want to use, but I can't figure out a different one right now, which is weird because
Disciplined?
I'm usually a disciplined, structured. That's
There
what
we
it is.
go.
It's structured in terms of the way the classes flow. And sort
Mm-hmm.
of, again, even as I'm wearing today, in instructors, we wear white when we are teaching. We cover our hair. There are certain things that happen, and I want to make sure that I'm able to do those things in a way that continues to be real and authentic to me, but maintain
Mm-hmm.
fidelity to the practice. There are a lot of very direct ties to Indian cultures in this process, from the way folks dress, the turbans and the such. And like, I don't have those same connections with Indian culture, and for me it feels a lot like appropriation for me to be moving in those spaces and in those ways, because I don't have that relationship. So I'm still working through how I present this practice and still make it me, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That kind of
So like,
leads into something I wanted to ask you anyway, is what has been your experience as a Black woman in not just the yoga space, but the Kundalini yoga space, because of all of the things that you mentioned, there are so many direct ties to the Indian culture, and their spiritual practices. As another minority coming into it, what has that experience been like for you?
it's really interesting because I have not gotten very connected with the broader community beyond
Mm-hmm.
my teacher training group. I just haven't had the capacity for that. But from what I see in my observations, it is a pretty white space. Even though there is clear honor and ties to Indian cultures, most of the people that I see on the screen look like they're white anyway. And and so I have not see myself in it yet, if I can be honest. Like, I know that the practice is clearly for me and it has been super useful to me, but I have not seen a space for myself and other Black Kundalini yogis to be able to connect with, to see what it could look like,
Mm-hmm.
and how it connects to things that I already know and the ways that it feels good and complements my lived experiences thus far. I want to be able to see how I can bring it to my communities to be able to help my people get some of all of this good stuff that I'm getting out of it, but in a way that is not feel literally foreign to them.
Right.
To be able to bridge that. So if you out there, Black Kundalini Yogas, listening to this podcast, please hit me up because I am ready to be in community.
Absolutely. I can only imagine how the work you're doing on a professional level with DEI is, kind of bolstering this for you too, because you made a really great point about, and something that I'm pretty sure many, many folks within any yoga space tries to do, especially if you are, definitely culturally conscious. Understanding that there's a great, great, great propensity for appropriation anytime you step foot into a yoga class. Like, it's unfortunately bound to happen, but understanding ways to minimize that, that's where that challenge is. So thank you for bringing that up, because that's a constant thing that's in my mind. Is like, all right, how can I do this and still honor where it came from, honor, the people that, are still, directly tied to it, and this is part of their daily life. This has been a part of their culture for eons. But also still be able to enjoy the same things that they get to enjoy and share them with other people too, as someone that's not of the culture.
Right.
Because as a Black woman, I understand. I like when I see, folks, do what they
With the
do
braids.
with, exactly with, the things of the Black American culture. It's like,
Uh-huh.
that didn't feel nice, and I don't want to be that person that does that to someone else with their practices too. So I'm always in my mind like, all right, these are the things that need to happen in order for this to feel good for me. And
Mm-hmm.
some of those things for me are, I don't use the word namaste at the end of class. If I'm gonna say it, I'm gonna say it as a greeting at the beginning, and I'm gonna end with chanting and Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. That's that, like, and honoring the practice, those that came before, honoring the land that we're on now, because of course I'm going to pay homage to the
Yes.
natives, or the indigenous folks that are here, because I'm not supposed to be here.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
I am going to definitely honor where all of this stuff comes from, because we couldn't do any of this without their patronage of
Yep.
the practices of the land, of all of it.
Yep.
So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah. So I always
Tough.
ask a lot of why. Why do we do that?
Yes.
Why do we do that? Why do we do that? And do we have to do it like that? Or do we just have to do it to that point? So
Thank you.
the one that always comes to mind is around covering my hair. I think of my locks as my antennas to God. And so I like for them to be out and loose. And that's an important part of my practice. But in our tradition, we cover the crown of the head so that you maintain your energy and block out the energy of the rest of the people in the class. And so I was like,
Yes.
okay, cover my head. Got it. I can do that in something white. But does it have to be a turban? No, it can be this. Okay, bet. So I just want to always make sure that I
Exactly.
am maintaining the fidelity to the practice of covering my crown and wearing white, because the white is to project your aura and to extend your
Mm-hmm.
projection and the such. Like, so I'll do those things, but it doesn't necessarily need to be with a turban and a kurta, or the Indian top that many folks
Right.
wear. I can do those things in my own way. So still
Absolutely.
finding that full balance of honoring the roots, honoring all of the roots, honoring my roots as well as the roots of the practice.
Yes, because even within our own roots, covering our head is as a spiritual practice as well. For the
Mm-hmm.
same reasons, for the exact same reasons, the protection of the hair, the energy that's coming in through the head, and like you said, your hair being an antenna to all, or any source energy that you believe in.
Mm-hmm.
That's truth. Like, so covering that does have its benefits. So I love that you're able to keep and honor that part, and also understand that it is something that's part of you too. So given that you have this plethora of tools that you can utilize within your knowledge base of the yoga stuff, Reiki, DEI, all of the higher education things, what other tools do you have, or at least want to have in your tool belt, when it comes to the offerings that you give to the world?
Mm-hmm. There's two that come to mind right away, and you will be excited to learn that both of these have been inspired by our favorite emerging adult, Miss Markia. Markia has been an important part of me figuring all of these things out, and it was her who introduced me to crystals as a form of energy healing and the such. And the other one was cannabis and various herbs around ingesting them as medicinal properties and the such. Now you can imagine, as a teenager, her use of cannabis did not make me happy. It was a constant point of contention between the two of us. But my daughter has had a number of mental health struggles, and she was self-medicating in that process, and we didn't necessarily know it at the time, but now that she has become an adult, she has done a kind of a deep dive into the medicinal uses of, or therapeutic perhaps might be a better word, uses of cannabis and other various herbs. And so she and I talked through that a lot about the hows and the whys, and once again, intention around use. And so as I start to think about all of the tools that we have at our disposal, I want to do more of a dive into the ways that herbs, particularly cannabis, but others as well, can be a part of this whole process and practice that we have in order to be able to help us to live our best lives.
I love that.
Yeah, so
Man,
that's the kind of kicking off.
that unintentional self-medicating thing is strong cuz yeah, I can relate. I can definitely relate. I wish that I could have understood that there was a better, a deeper, maybe deeper alternative to using cannabis than just smoking it, because that's all I thought it was, or that all I thought you could do, or the what is it that they always do in movies, the brownies. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, those are the only two ways that you can ingest this stuff, and it's always going to trip you out. And I'm like, I don't know if that's necessarily what I want to do, but now understanding hemp a little bit more, it's been so helpful in so many ways. And
Yeah.
I'm still trying to figure out a little bit more of how to utilize it myself, but um I'm eager to learn more from you about it because I learned so much from you.
I'm learning myself now, but like I said, I have Markia who is teaching me. I have also put Tiffany on the task. Tiffany is our other friend, also has been, she's a licensed therapist. And so we talk often about how to select strains and the such based on the therapeutic properties that they provide and the ways that it can be useful if you're having trouble sleeping or if you're having trouble with focus and the such, and how to really customize your selections based on the things that you need. It's real. I don't know it yet, but that's something that I definitely look to learn more about.
Oh, definitely. So once you've started learning more about it, what do you think your offerings then will look like with the inclusion of it?
I think my offerings will, so the whole goal of what I am developing now is to help people build rituals and honor their rituals to help them live life, help them maintain when things are good, and help them steady themselves when things are not so good. And so I don't want to take anything off the table as a potential tool. So, yoga, meditation, Reiki, clear tools that I use myself, but other tools will also include more traditional forms of spirituality in terms of church, singing in a choir, prayer on that space. I also want to include the opportunity to commune with nature and to have service be one of the grounding practices. But one of those tools can also be the use of herbs in therapeutic ways. And so I will have this full array of things that I would like for my clients to be able to have at their disposal in order for them to put the puzzle together, for them to build their own practice of rituals to steady themselves throughout lives.
Yes. Ugh, I love that you said that because I swear I ritualize everything.
Yeah. And you got to, because otherwise you're going to forget it. Because I feel like I have finally gotten to a place now where if I don't do my sadhana, I don't feel right. It's finally
Hmm.
gotten there. And I had to not do it for a little while. then I realized it, like, what is wrong? Why do I feel
Yep.
this way? And then I'm like, oh, that's
I
right.
didn't do the thing.
Yeah, I didn't do the thing for the last 4 days, and now I feel weird. It would be the same as
Yep.
if you go one day without brushing your teeth. It might not be great, but it won't be that big of a deal. But if you go 4 days without brushing your teeth, you will notice the difference. And
You
so
gonna
that is what
notice some
I
things.
right, and the
And
people
other
around
folks
me,
will too.
right,
Yeah.
will notice the difference. So that's what I'm trying to help. I hope to help the folks who I work with to build a practice of spiritual hygiene that will prepare them for life in the world. And so I want all of those array of options. I want to have some familiarity with a large array of options so that they can have the various building blocks of their spiritual hygiene routines.
Oof. Spiritual hygiene. I love that term. I'm using that. I'm stealing it. I'm using, well, maybe not stealing it. I'm gonna borrow it.
You can share it. I've been trying to figure out what I want to call this practice too. So maybe I'm gonna be a spiritual hygiene coach. I don't know. I
Hey.
can't. I'm like, it's not a life coach. That doesn't feel right because I have a specific thing that I want to talk about as I
I
help
like
them to
that.
make their lives better.
Yes, a spiritual hygienist.
Spiritual hygienist. Yes.
Oh, we're silly. Oh my
Yes. But
goodness.
it works though. That really is what is that I
Yeah.
am hoping to be able to offer people.
And that's a beautiful thing because it's necessary.
Yeah.
Whether you fully believe in any of this stuff or not, energy is energy, and regardless of what you believe in it. So
And you don't
we're
have
here
to
to
have
help.
any. That's not. Can we talk about that for a little while around this idea of beliefs or belief systems and such? Like I've heard
Yes.
people like, I don't believe in yoga. I'm like, what is to believe in? I don't understand what you mean by
Yeah.
that. But you can have any faith background or no faith background. There is still things that you have to do on a regular basis in order to move through life.
Exactly.
Now, whether you do those things
Exactly.
in the name of a deity, in the name of nature, in the name of the universe, however you move through it, I believe that there is a unifying force that helps everything move along and stay on track.
Yes.
And as humans, when we connect to that unifying voice, then we are able to understand why we were put on this planet, and then we are able to move in service of that purpose.
Oh yeah. I completely agree because as I started, diving deeper into the practice, even though I grew up, with a Christian background, and I can't necessarily say that's the same today.
Same here.
But knowing the things that I knew, I definitely had a biased mindset going into a lot of things, and hearing people say, certain stuff like, I don't believe in yoga, or yoga's this and that. And, that's just not what we do as, Christians or whatever. And I'm like, I'm going to try it because something about it seems right. And
Mm-hmm.
anytime I read any types of text regarding the practice itself, understanding that if there is ever mention of God, it is simply just a term to be used to help understand the broader, source energy, and it can be
Yeah.
whatever you call it.
Yeah.
And also having that understanding of not, because I'm going to say it, but in the Christian mindset, it's very blinders on. This is the only thing that's ever happened, and our way is the only way. And
Yes.
I don't care
Yes.
what you say about any other
Yes.
things. This is this. And I'm like, well, what was that interpretation of that text supposed to
Yes.
be like?
Yes.
Because this is, you got to remember, this is coming from another language, so this has now been translated into another language, and things get lost in translation. So when you see the
And it's
terms
been
like
done by
God or
people.
deity,
We have
exactly.
people. It's people who is doing the interpretation.
Thank you. So, like, seeing those terms, I didn't necessarily be like, oh, okay, now this is my new religion. No, I'm like, okay, no, they're just helping me understand that this is the larger thing it's connecting us to, rather than just, one thing, it's all.
Yep. And my
Yeah.
church, I also I describe myself as like culturally Christian. While I don't identify in that way now, it's in me and it's who I am and it's a part of my DNA in terms of the way I understand the world. So I still use a lot of the language from
Yeah.
my Baptist specifically
Same.
upbringing in the ways that I think about spirituality now. Even this morning, it's Sunday that we are recording on. I turned on my music and sat in the backyard and had a good old moment with Yolanda Adams, the Clark sisters, BB and CC Winans. All of those are still a part of my connection. And there is no contradiction between what I have learned in church and how I experience spirituality now. It's different language and different perspectives, but it is not different.
Exactly. Oh, exactly. It's something about music that definitely has kept me tied to it. Like I I can't even tell you the last time I went to church. But every now and again, I will put on a gospel song cuz there's I think music is one of the greatest languages to be spoken, or at least universal
Absolutely.
languages to be spoken. So there's always something there that helps me in a specific time. So I may not necessarily, connect with the lyrics, but something about the message that's being, given is still important.
Hmm.
But yeah, thank you for bringing that up because that is definitely important to talk about. But now we are getting to the end of our time recording together. And of course, I'm keeping this tradition going. I give everyone the opportunity to give advice to those that are looking to start a practice in any yoga practice or within any yoga practice, or those that are looking to move into also adding teaching to their practice. What advice would you give to those two subgroups?
If you are thinking about beginning a yoga practice, do it. Do it. Just go. Go try things in a lot of different places and see what lands on you. What feels right in your spirit. This is not one that necessarily requires a whole lot of research and introspection in advance. I would say go to whatever yoga classes you can afford and find in your area and look online and try a number of different perhaps YouTubers or the such. I use the Peloton app and I enjoy doing yoga with the folks at Peloton. It's everywhere. You can find one that fits you anywhere. Just try it. A lot of different ones. That's where I would start with someone who wants to begin and see what feels right. Just genuinely sit in the space and give it a whole open heart and see, does this feel good to me? And if it feels good to you, stay and keep doing it and do it some more and figure out how you can do it at home on your own as well. Um, when you're thinking about teacher training, on the other hand, I'm going to give you the exact opposite advice and do a whole lot of research. Find out as much as you can about what it is that you are getting yourself into because there are a lot of options out there. There are some that are fully remote, fully asynchronous, really kind of you study on your own, take a test at the end, and you're certified. Now, for some folks who have been doing yoga forever and already just need some sort of credentialing, which I've heard you talk about on the podcast before. We ain't gonna go into it today, but if you just need this credentialing, that might be a good fit. But if you need some deeper instruction and you want to have a deeper connection to the practice, do a great deal of research. Talk to people who have been in the classes that you are considering so that you can have a sense of what it is that you're getting yourself into. Now, I know that's the exact opposite of what I told you I did, and it worked out for me. It did. However, I could have imagined that if I had invested that time and money and it not turn out that way, then I would have had a whole different story. But investigate, talk to people, look around, go back to why you're doing it, and let that guide how you choose a program.
Beautifully said. Ugh, I hate that this is about to end. I don't
I
want it
can't believe
to.
that it's already done. I was really like, what are Tyranny and I going to talk about for an hour and a half, if not my kids? But we found other things to talk about for an hour
I
and a
know
half,
it.
or however long we've
Exactly.
been going here.
Yeah. Um, but man, this is a real full circle moment for me. I don't think I've had anyone on this show that I have had this deep of a connection with before. So this is new territory for me. And I thank you so much for, like I've said before, just everything that you have ever done in my life. And um, this love is forever. So just know you're never getting rid of me.
Absolutely
Just
not.
just know that
Absolutely
I'm
not. And your room
I'm
at
a
the Everett
parasite on
Estate
you.
is here. I will continue to, I can't wait till you come visit us
I
again to see. Now I'm
know.
going to turn into that auntie for real. Like, when you coming by, baby? But I am super proud of you and the platform that you have established here. I am having that same full circle moment because you were a very shy 17-year-old, I believe, when we first became acquainted. And now to see the boss that you have blossomed into makes me feel good. And I'm so happy that you would include me in this space.
Of course, of course. There was no way I was gonna not. Come on now. Come on now. It's just a matter of if you wanted to. I wasn't gonna push it. Just you let me know. And you
Yeah.
did. So thank you for being here. So for those listening, thank you for being here as well. I've got a really great season planned out for you. So please stay in tune every Tuesday for a new episode. Other than that, I got nothing else for y'all. I'll see you next week. Kim, thank you so much. Y'all have a great rest of your day. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Yoga in Black podcast. Want to know what you'd think of the episode? Leave us a comment or a rating on whichever platform you're listening or watching from today. And if you'd like to connect with us on social media, here's where you can find us on Instagram at yoga.inblack and Facebook, just Yoga in Black. We're accepting donations to help keep this podcast going, and we're also working on bringing back classes with some of the awesome teachers that you've met, so stay tuned. There's other ways that you can support Yoga in Black, starting with buying some merch. Check out our new merch store by visiting our website to grab some new fly gear and show your love for Yoga in Black. We've got shirts, hoodies, yoga mats, slides, and so much more. So head on over to www.yogainblack.net for all your Yoga in Black needs. Next week, you're meeting with Monetta Wilson. All episodes air every Tuesday, and if you'd like to be on the show, fill out our waitlist form on the website. Thanks again for all of your support. This couldn't be done without you.